In a world where we are becoming more bombarded with disinformation and AI-generated information everywhere, there's going to be people who can think for themselves and people that don't know how to tell the difference between truth and falsehood. I'm here to share 9 essential critical thinking habits that are going to help you cut through the noise easily and make you more valuable as a problem solver. All I ask in return is that if you like the video, give it a thumbs up and subscribe. Let's get started right now. Habit number 1 is cultivating your intellectual curiosity. So, imagine being in a room with experts from various fields and feeling confident that you have something to contribute to the conversation. This ability is rooted in making it a habit to cultivate curiosity and explore subjects beyond your main interests or goals. It's this habit which got me in the position where I can have a podcast discussing people's ideas in depth, even though my main field is medicine. If you were to look at my bookshelf, a lot of the stuff that I have is on a whole bunch of subjects, even ones that don't really have a connection to my main job or goals. And it could be books, newspapers, blogs, you name it. One of my favourite books, which is How to Read a Book, talks about the value of what they call x-raying a book, being able to tell the main things it has to offer just by briefly looking at its structure and key paragraphs. I found that the more I've read, the faster I've got at this kind of screening, so I can tell if a book's going to tell me something new. So how can you do the same? First, begin by reading widely. What you want is to try to achieve that innate childhood curiosity. It's that same curiosity that will fuel your personal development as an adult too. Venture outside your comfort zone and delve into new topics, regardless of how random they may seem. Look up unfamiliar words or concepts and engage in conversations so that you encounter new ideas. And another thing is, don't worry about fitting curiosity into your schedule. My secret is actually in not planning it. Instead, I indulge my curiosity when it strikes. That, I think, makes me more efficient at getting new insights, because when I am reading, it's because I'm very into it. If you embrace it, you'll find that it becomes a natural part of your day. So by making curiosity a habit, you'll see your world grow in unexpected ways. Which brings us on to habit 2, which is listening to people you disagree with. You know, it's funny because as a Muslim, I have a whole bunch of books on my shelf by Christopher Hitchens, I listen to a lot of Sam Harris, and I read about other religions too. Reading about people you disagree with can help strengthen your own arguments and help you identify any blind spots in your thinking. And that's developed my critical thinking way beyond anything that's possible if I only spoke to people I agree with. If you plan on doing any sort of problem solving with a team of people, it's essential to engage with opposing ideas. It helps you develop responses to objections, and it helps you avoid the pitfalls of groupthink or confirmation bias. So how can you get started with this? One technique that's been a game changer for me is active listening. Instead of just waiting to argue back, I practice paraphrasing and summarising what the other person has said. This not only helps me remember their points better, but it also shows the person that I'm genuinely trying to understand their perspective. Second, always consider the larger narrative behind each side of a discussion or argument. People are much more likely to believe something which confirms a narrative they already believe in. Now, being aware of the role narratives play in biasing opinions can make you a better critical thinker, because you can exercise caution when you believe a narrative is having an effect on the discussion. Follow people on social media who have opposing views to you and try and engage in meaningful discussions. Remember, these conversations give you the most out when you approach them with a respect for the other person and a willingness to learn. And that lays the groundwork for habit number 3, which is challenging preconceptions. Conventional wisdom isn't always wrong, but when it is, there's a huge reward for the person who challenges it successfully. Throughout my medical training, I learned that many medical breakthroughs often come from questioning established beliefs and thinking outside the box. Now, this habit is not limited to the medical field. It can benefit anyone who adopts it. So how do you do that? First, don't be afraid to ask challenging questions, as long as you do it respectfully. When speaking, ask, how would it change things if that assumption wasn't actually correct? In one of my podcast episodes, I interviewed a Conservative Party activist and public health academic whose political views were different to some of my own beliefs, but instead of shying away from that controversy, addressing it respectfully and directly led to a thought-provoking and informative discussion for both of us. Second, challenge your own preconceptions. Now, the human mind has a million biases that make us think things are true when they aren't, and I'm going to do a video about that, put it here if you're interested. These are errors that happen from all the shortcuts we use so that we don't have to think in detail about everything all the time. Learn about a few examples. Confirmation bias, where we believe evidence because it supports our beliefs. Recency bias, where we're more likely to notice things that we've just been thinking about. And anchoring bias, where someone can influence the price you'll pay for something by suggesting a price of their own first. Becoming aware of your own biases and assumptions can prompt you to think more deeply and be a more accurate thinker more of the time. Third, take risks. If you're thinking critically, you should try to come up with some unconventional ideas and then be willing to put them to the test. This enables you to seek feedback on your ideas and develop them so that even if people aren't as enthusiastic as you about your ideas, you still get a win out of it. And if you enjoy taking really big risks, you could even subscribe to the channel. But seriously, challenging preconceptions isn't easy, but by cultivating this as a habit, you'll become a more open-minded and critical thinker. And with a solid foundation in place, you'll be ready to dive into habit number 4, which explores the art of Socratic questioning. An example of a Socratic question is something like, what are the reasons you thought that? Named after the famous Greek philosopher Socrates, this technique has stood the test of time, and it remains one of the most effective ways to hone your critical thinking skills. Socrates would ask open-ended, thought-provoking questions rather than directly debate somebody. That would encourage deeper understanding, stimulate reflective thinking, and expose assumptions or contradictions. Socratic thinking not only develops your critical thinking skills, it also empowers you to navigate complex issues and identify the most robust solutions. So how do you apply Socratic questioning in everyday conversations? I'd suggest focusing on 2 main types of question. First, there are questions that explore beliefs and deep dive into them. What evidence supports your conclusion? Or can you provide an example that supports your argument? This way, you encourage others to consider the basis of their beliefs while also reflecting on your own understanding. Second, questions that push alternative perspectives. How would you explain your viewpoint to someone who disagrees with you? If someone said you were assuming this, what would you say? These questions push both parties to see things from a different angle and develop well-rounded arguments. By mastering the art of Socratic questioning, you'll not only engage in more meaningful, constructive conversations, but you'll also cultivate what's a huge benefit to your critical thinking skills: the ability to identify hidden assumptions in conversations. And that heightened self-awareness will set the stage for habit number 5, which delves into the idea of metacognition. Have you ever wondered how some people seem to have a better understanding of their own thought processes, and it helps them navigate more complex situations with ease? That is the power of metacognition. Metacognition is sometimes called thinking about thinking. I'm the sort of person that I can't help thinking about thinking all the time, and it's something that makes me more in tune with the landscape of my own internal thoughts and beliefs. Just like any other landscape with roads, forests, and hills, metacognition helps me develop a better internal map to find my way around more effectively. This levels up your critical thinking skills by getting you to recognize your strengths, weaknesses, and biases, and make informed decisions about how to grow, and make sure that the map is accurate and up to date. And the evidence for the benefits of metacognition is growing. It's been shown to help decrease depression and been linked to better academic performance in a comprehensive review of the scientific evidence, probably because it helps think critically about those things. Now, how can you make metacognition a habit to improve your critical thinking? One technique is self-questioning. Just as Socratic questioning encourages deep understanding in conversations, self-questioning promotes self-awareness and introspection. By asking yourself questions like, What assumptions did I make during this decision? How might my personal biases have influenced my conclusions? What you can do is reevaluate your approach and help you make better informed decisions. Another powerful tool about metacognition is calming your mind deeply. In my work, every doctor on the front line at the moment is getting stressed and overworked. What do you think is going to happen to their decision making? It's not going to make it better. When I leave work, doing some exercise, stretching helps me calm my mind, and other people might use mindfulness or meditation for the same reason. One way that these activities are thought to work is through increasing parasympathetic nervous activity, which acts to oppose the fight or flight response, and it improves your ability to think more clearly. Lastly, notice your own errors. Metacognition helps you respond in a constructive way by updating the mental models that led to those results, like the internal map I talked about earlier. This is where being open to learning from your mistakes comes into play. So when I first started my YouTube channel, it's only by using the analytics to show me where my videos can be improved that I've been able to learn. Metacognition helps you reflect on whatever feedback you get and identify exactly where you could improve. And to take it to the next level, habit number 6 is evaluating evidence for yourself. It's extremely important to build a habit of not trusting evidence exists just because someone says it does. Now, Trish Greenhalgh is a public health academic who's written a really short but amazing book called How to Read a Paper, which has great advice on this. So the first thing I look at is, what kind of evidence is it? Is it anecdote, a statistic, a single scientific study, or a systematic review, which is where scientists look at all the available evidence? Once you know what kind of evidence it is, then you can start asking questions about how reliable that evidence is. Things I'd ask to do that is, do the authors have a personal interest? Did the evidence say what the person said it did? Was the scientific study controlled, or did they have sloppy methods, like trying to gauge levels of obesity by asking some people outside of a gym and assuming that they're a representative sample? And when you start looking at evidence properly like this, you'll be shocked at how many headlines and just how many people are just wrong about what the evidence they're looking at really says. By developing a high standard for believing something based on evidence, this habit will protect you from misinformation. Cultivating this habit will also help you see that there's no such thing as unbiased information. Now, if you want something more action-oriented, then habit number 7 is integrative thinking. Entrepreneurs have to do this all the time because the problems they face are across several different fields or disciplines. Imagine Elon Musk, who trained in physics originally. He's got to work with computer programmers, logistics experts, government, as well as business people. When faced with the difficult challenge of making electric cars affordable, Elon Musk combined the seemingly opposing ideas of sustainability and affordability to try to create a new car. Integrative thinking is the ability to combine contradictory ideas or perspectives to create new solutions. How can you develop your integrative thinking skills? First, engage in cross-disciplinary learning. So expose yourself to various fields of study and try and find connections between them. If you combine ideas from different sources or fields, that will help. Secondly, embrace cognitive diversity. And what that means is find people who think differently from you, as speaking to them about their unique perspectives will help you see things that you never realized before. Embracing this as a habit will increase your capacity for creative problem solving. And the next one's my favorite tip in the list. It's number 8. Habit number 8 is learning about counterfactual thinking. I came across this concept in a podcast between Sam Harris and Neil Ferguson when they discussed the 2016 US election. Both people despised Trump, but Neil argued that Trump's victory was actually the lesser evil. He believed that the alternative, where Trump voter frustration had no outlet, would be worse. That's counterfactual thinking in action. It involves thinking about what the alternative scenario would be and the likely outcomes, and it plays a crucial role in critical thinking. However, it's essential to not be selective with your counterfactuals, otherwise they can negatively impact us. Ever notice with Olympic athletes how bronze medalists often seem happier than the silver medalists. Remember Michaela Moroni? One theory is that the bronze medalists are happy because their counterfactual is thinking about not medaling at all, whereas the silver winners get bummed out because their counterfactual is what it would have been like to win the gold. To practice counterfactual thinking in everyday life, try asking what-if questions. So if you are embarking on a new business venture, consider, what if I succeed? What if I fail? What if I never even try? Overall, counterfactual thinking broadens your perspective and it improves your decision making, and making it a habit will help you understand and compare different complex scenarios. But before you let these tools make you think you're clever, habit number 9 is cultivating intellectual humility. The famed physicist Richard Feynman said, "It's okay to say, I don't know. There's no shame in that. The only shame is to pretend that we know everything." Have you ever been in a situation where at the time you just couldn't accept that you were wrong? In the medical field, this can happen under pressure, and it's called fixation error. I think intellectual humility can help us avoid these situations. Admitting when you're wrong or don't know opens up opportunities for other people to contribute, and it takes the load off us. In this way, intellectual humility can be a strength because it opens you up to using the feedback and advice of others to get to the right decision. So there's 3 simple ways to practice this, but they're more difficult than they sound. So the first is to start practicing saying, I don't know. It might feel uncomfortable at first, but if it is, then that's a sign that you're resistant to this idea. To be honest, I just think you have to get real with yourself. You can't be right all the time. 2, remind yourself that the goal is to think as best you can with the information you have, rather than feeling the need to be right all the time. That mindset shift will help keep your focus on learning and adapting rather than winning or outsmarting others. Learn not to have opinions about topics you're uninformed about. It's perfectly fine to reserve judgment until you've gathered more information, and you don't need to have an opinion on everything. Intellectual humility is about recognizing and embracing our limitations. It's an essential part of critical thinking because it prevents us making assumptions or jumping to conclusions based on limited information. Now I'm going to put all 9 tips together on the end screen, so if you want to see those, then watch right to the end. Give the video a thumbs up if you found it useful. That's really important for YouTube showing it to other people as well. And if you want other tools to understand big discussions, then click on this video here. And if you're interested in the ideas about cognitive biases, then look at this one here instead. And I'm going to leave you with another quote from Richard Feynman, which I think sums up this video perfectly. The first principle is that you must not fool yourself, and you are the easiest person to fool.